So I actually just got done watching Red One on Amazon Prime, and I don't mean video on demand. I mean it is on part of like your Prime Video subscription. So if you have Prime Video, you can watch it. I believe there were supposed to be commercial breaks, but mine didn't play with any commercial breaks because my parents had already started it, and they were like, "Oh, just have to sit through a few commercials." I'm like, "Okay." Well, I didn't get any commercials when I watched it, so I don't know how that goes. This is a pretty fast turnaround for the movie, obviously having just only been in theaters, and I think still technically in theaters, but famously doing terrible at the box office, right? Nobody's going to see this, and all the reviews were kind of the same. CGI mess, uninspired story, overly long runtime, and they're right on all accounts. It is definitely a CGI mess. I was really having a hard time looking at it at times. Like, just it was not my favorite thing. The people talking to each other stuff is a little schmaltzy for me, but I'd rather have like two actors on set, going back and forth. I like the practical puppetry when they go to like Krampus and stuff a lot more than the overblown CGI mess we kind of get at that kind of bookends our film. And a little bit in the middle as well. Story wise, it's the trailer actually shows pretty much the entirety of the movie, which I was shocked. Right, I was like really, really shocked at just like how much of the movie is given away in the trailer, which I suppose I shouldn't, having watched trailers, doing trailer trash and all that stuff and just commenting on them. But it really does give like most of the plot beats away. Do I recommend this movie? I'm gonna say sort of. All right, it was not as terrible as I had heard. There was definitely room for improvement, and there's a bunch of questionable choices, but it's on Prime Video, so if you want to watch it, go watch it. Just know it is a solid 2 hours, and there will be times where you're going to check like your phone and be like, oh my God. And then you'll press pause and be like, oh my God, there's still so much left. So it's one of those kind of movies with terrible pacing issues. And, you're watching Chris Evans and The Rock, and they seem like Chris Evans and The Rock. So you're not really invested too much in like their characters or their journeys. Chris Evans plays deadbeat dad as well, which I think the trailers did hide from me. And he is on like this he ends up having like a path of redemption, helping save Christmas and winning the love of his son back. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is 1 day away from retirement. I'm not even kidding. They're going with that 1 day away from retirement kind of story. And so he has to go on this quest to learn to fall back in love with Christmas and see the good in people and grown-ups who he's so concerned have just lost their way. There's really not much else to the story. It's not really complex. And this is about as far as I'll go for spoiler free. So you've been warned from this point forward, because there are a few things that I think are worthy of mention. One, the middle of the movie is just a mess. When they go to find this guy who's like the intermediary for Chris Evans being like the tracker, the hacker kind of guy, he's played by Nick Kroll, who's just totally miscast. He's like great if you're going to make him be smarmy, and he's fine by that. But then when the Winter Witch Grilla. I just watched the movie and I can't remember her name. It's what's her face from Sabrina, The Haunting Tales of Sabrina, Shireen Kipla. I should have looked some of this up, but I'm not going to. It's Sabrina. So she's the Winter Witch, and when she possesses his body and makes Nick Kroll give like this like speech, oh, it's so cringy and terrible. I mean, that whole them going to like, what was it, Aruba doesn't belong in the movie, doesn't feel natural, eats up a lot of runtime, eats up a lot of CGI. It's that whole snowman fight thing you see in the trailer. Just absolutely unnecessary. We don't really get a lot. We get like the villain reveal, but to be honest, you could have handled that during the Krampus segment, which I found to be much more enjoyable. And like I said, you would have cut away a good part of like a good chunk of film there. I also would have got rid of Chris Evans' plot about, being like a deadbeat dad who needs to reconnect with his kid. That ate up a lot of screen time, and there was never any doubt how it was going to end. So just kind of unnecessary. It throws in like this unnecessary plot development after the Krampus thing, where the whole point of it is they're going to use the snow globe that traps people in it that Krampus has. The Winter Witch is going to mass produce them and take everybody on the naughty list and trap them. And okay, sure, why not? Doesn't matter too much. But there's this part where it traps both the son, and then Chris Evans grabs the snow globe and does it to like, I'll end up where my son is. And turns out you can break out of this thing by just being slightly nice, as if that balances the scales in any way. It was completely unnecessary. They should have stuck with the buddy cop format. Should have just had Chris Evans being like, your redemption arc is at the end, right? And you could have seen Chris Kringle like cross his name off, or like put like a little star next to it, like an asterisk, like he's not completely off the list yet. You could have had a lot more fun with it. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is just Dwayne The Rock Johnson the whole movie. I don't mind his character being like, I've lost the Christmas spirit, and I just don't like what grown-ups have become. I don't like how the naughty list keeps growing year after year. I'm burnt out on Christmas. J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus was actually quite good. No surprise there. The man is a fantastic actor. But, he's like, well, you'll come around. There's really not a lot of story beats to really get into, but I wanted to mention that whole Aruba thing, the Nick Kroll thing, which I really didn't care for. Get rid of the deadbeat dad arc. Find ways to trim this movie down. And the end sequence where J.K. Simmons, we get to see his like Santa go like all out and how he does everything in one night. I think the movie missed a really good opportunity to have that be their title sequence, their end credit sequence, I mean. Well, they could have started the movie with the two, but it's not as exciting. But I meant the end credit sequence. It really should have been their end credit sequence. And then the little thing at the end should have been like Dwayne The Rock Johnson smiling at like Kris Kringle and being like, I don't want to retire anymore. And he's like, it's good to have you back. It's all they needed to do. But no, instead, we got a bunch of subplots we don't care about. I don't know. Movie's fine, I guess. At 2 hours long, though, it really did feel like it was wasting quite a bit of my time. So if you're asking me, what do I prefer versus Red 1 or Hot Frosty? I'm going to lean towards Hot Frosty. It was way less complicated, had a lot more humor, because this one forces in so many jokes that it's like, they're just not funny. It is such like terrible, terrible humor. And they just like, there's this part where Dwayne The Rock Johnson's like, let's go save Christmas. And Chris Evans is like, yeah. And he's like, no, you have to say it too. And he's like, I'm not going to say it. And he's like, no, you have to. He's like, I don't want to say it. And he's like, say it. And I'm like, please stop and just go to the next scene. Like, just stop. It's terrible. But I think I'm leaning towards Hot Frosty for the better of the movies because, first of all, it's only 90 minutes. Didn't waste my time. Had a lot more charming characters. So, I don't know. You guys let me know down below. What did you prefer? Have you seen Red 1? Did you like it? How does it compare to Hot Frosty? The epic debate of our time. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.